All right, we're back with the Garlic Marketing Show book marketing series. I got my good friend, publisher, speaker, just awesome person, Michelle Prince. Michelle, thank you so much for being on this special edition.
Of course, I'm excited to be here.
Today we're going to talk about one of my favorite subjects, one of the things, I listen to nonstop, and I think it's probably one of the most valuable things in my life, but I think valuable for your marketing is audiobooks. So I think audiobooks are intimidating to people, but tell me about why an audiobook is important, and then let's talk about how to get an audiobook out there.
Yeah, audiobooks are huge. They've always been, they've been around for a long time, so this isn't something new, but more and more people are listening because if you think about it, we're constantly on our phones. We're on the go. More people are listening to audiobooks than purchasing books in certain demographics. So at one point a couple of years ago, 25% of listeners prefer audiobooks over regular books. That number has skyrocketed, especially during COVID. So just thinking about, if there's 9 million people listening to audiobooks, you want to be sure your book is there so that you don't miss that market.
No, I agree. And all of my friends that are entrepreneurs, I don't know how many audiobooks you listen to, but I listen to voraciously. I literally have 500 audiobooks.
Oh my gosh, I don't have that many, but I probably have about 100 or more. But that's awesome.
I listen to them, and sometimes I listen. Like right now, I'm listening to Pat Williams' book on Walt Disney, How to Be Like Walt. And it's my third time, and I listen to it with my son in the car. He's 8, and he's like learning all about Walt, and and I have a whole selection. But what's amazing is I feel like I know these people because I listen. Their voice is in my ear, and like when I meet some of these people, I'm like, oh. And I'm not usually starstruck, but it's like I know you. I think it's super powerful. And
it is huge.
Yeah. And you'll listen to more of an audiobook than I will a book. I buy the book and then I'll listen to the audiobook and I'll buy the book as a reference tool, but not, no offense, but I don't read as much.
Yeah. And it's funny. I was having a conversation with my son. So I have 2 kids that are 20, almost 23 and 19. So they're in that demographic that they don't read books really. And we had just published a book and we were at dinner and I mentioned it. And my son said, people still read real books. Like there's a generation that doesn't even consider picking up books as much as our generation, or my generation, I should say, because it's just available on their phones. It's easy. They can do it on the go. They don't have to, have a place to do it. They can do it reading or working out, driving. But something you said is so important. Another reason why I'm so passionate about audiobooks, it's not even just getting it out there, right? It is obviously more revenue streams, physical book, audiobook, 2 revenue streams, but it's the connection. I'm the same way. When I hear someone's voice on an audiobook, I just feel like I'm a part of their story versus just reading it. And it's one of the reasons why there's a debate. Do you read your own book or do you hire voice talent? I personally, depending on the kind of book, love it when the true author reads the book.
Oh, I love it. I think the author, no matter what, should read the book. Unless it's like a fiction book, that's a whole different story, where you have to act it out. So how do we get an audiobook out there? What's the process?
Okay, so first you have to have a book. Can you do an audiobook first? You can, but it's a heck of a lot easier because when you are recording an audiobook, you're literally reading your physical book verbatim. And it's important that you practice and have voice inflection and, bring emotion into it. You don't want to just read it, you want to engage the listener, right? So hiring a really great audio producer to help you do that is so, so important. Now, people who are doing podcasting and all of that, and they're very, very comfortable with recording, probably could do it on their own. But I always recommend that you get a producer because not only do you want to make sure that the sound quality is great, the edits have to be very well done because there is really nothing worse than a poorly done audiobook. I don't know if you've ever bought one, but people know it instantly. So it's important to seek that out first. But first, write the book. Second, find a producer who's going to help you with the recording and editing. And then it's all about distributing because that's a whole different animal than distributing a physical book.
Yes, yes. Oh, that and when you talk about distributing, how do you get it out there? How do you distribute it?
Okay, so audiobooks, you have 500 audiobooks. You're likely listening to those either on Audible or iTunes, maybe Amazon Books. There's so many others out there. Audible, same. I'm all Audible. Now, so to be on their platform and all of these other ones as well, iTunes and all that, there's very specific guidelines, requirements, file requirements, and things like that. And it's not that it's rocket science, but it's a little complicated. And that's why you want to have somebody who has experience in that. For those who have a physical book, you probably know this. When you distribute a physical book, you're going through a distributor who is getting it onto Amazon and barnesandnoble.com and all of these other online retailers. But the audiobook is a totally different set of retailers and a totally different set of distributors. So it's different animals.
And what are some great resources out there for learning the technical aspects of it?
Yeah, so when you think about recording, there's really two options. There's the record it yourself, or hiring voice talent. So there's a lot of information out there online as far as like, if you want to record it yourself, do it yourself. How do you do that? Well, just like with a podcast, you have to have great audio equipment, whether you're recording on, like what we're recording on now, whether you're recording on Zoom, but the quality of where you are, what room you're in, the sound quality is so, so important. And so you want to research that. What kind of a microphone should you have? What should where should you do this, etc. I'll give you a great example of a audiobook gone wrong. And so we do audiobooks, and most of the audiobooks we do with a remote producer, which makes it great. But we give them all these guidelines of exactly what they need, where they need to be, etc. So I had a client who wanted to come in to do it in person, which is no problem. But I had just moved into a new office, and the podcast studio, which we had, hadn't been fully. What's the word I'm looking for? All of the sound quality all the walls weren't, padded yet. And yet we were on a deadline to get this book done. And just that little detail not happening in a room where nobody else is around, you could hear the echo. You could hear even somebody far away mumbling. It picks up an audio. The sound quality is so good typically on the recording that it picks up everything. So that's one thing I would say is do your homework. And if you're going to do it yourself, just don't go, do it in your office with echoes and making it sound like you're in a tunnel. Audiobooks have to be done really well. And then the second thing is you can hire voice talent, and a lot of people go this route. Even very well-known authors who have a great voice hire voice talent. Sometimes it's because maybe they're too busy. Other times there's plenty of authors who don't enjoy the process of recording an audiobook. I mean, it's not for the faint of heart, and it's just like speaking. You're either really comfortable with it or you're not. So there's a ton of great voice audio talent out there that you can contract, that you can hire. They're all at different price ranges. They have different accents. They have different inflections. They have specialties, whether they're fiction, nonfiction, leadership, etc. So do your research there too, to find somebody that really is going to showcase you if you're not reading it, and give the same experience that you would give if you were reading it yourself.
Great advice. And, I'm going to do a shameless plug for one of our past guests. One of my favorite audiobook narrators is Sean Pratt. We'll put a link to that in the show notes because you can hire him. And I'll tell you, if you hire ones that do a lot of business books and you're writing a business book, for me at least, if it's not you reading, but it's someone I know, that also helps me. It makes me feel more comfortable. It's like I know this person, and it was so funny because I've listened to Sean so many times. I'm like, he came on the podcast. I'm like, man, I really feel like you're like one of my best friends.
Isn't it funny though how that is?
It's the mere exposure effect. I tell people It's a super powerful thing. I know the science behind it. It still works on me. So,
just think about it for podcasts. Why do we love podcasts? Why do we get so hooked on maybe think about one or two podcasts you listen to all the time? You're not seeing them in most cases. you're just hearing them, but you feel this connection, you know? And so it's the same as with an audiobook. You know, I'm not going to give the name of the author because I highly respect this person, but I bought a book one time, and it was a very, very, very well-known author who also is pastors a large church, and they did not read the book. And this particular person had a very distinct, bold voice, and I was so disappointed when I listened to the book, and it wasn't him. And sure, there's various reasons why, maybe schedules and all that, but keep that in mind. If you are trying to build a platform, this is my advice. If you're trying to build a platform and you're trying to be somebody that has authority and credibility and influence, then you need to read your book, I think, because they're connecting with you. Now, once you have 30 New York Times bestsellers, okay, maybe you can, you know, but people want to, if you're building the platform, let them connect with you.
Yeah, I mean, I think probably Malcolm Gladwell has a different voice, but I love hearing it. And his books are so well produced too, that they're so entertaining. And like his last one, Talking with Strangers is just so well produced, and I enjoy his voice. Here's the one funny thing though, is when I meet the authors, I listen to most of my audiobooks at like 1.5 to 2 times speed. So then when they talk, I'm like, why are you talking so slow?
Oh, how funny. That's funny. I do that too, actually. Now that you say that, I never really put that together. But yeah, that's totally different when you keep it at the normal level.
Oh, yeah. I'm like, why are these people? And it's really bad if I listen to an audiobook like on an 8-hour car ride and I get out and then I'm talking to people. I'm like, why are all these people talking so slow?
And you're talking like...
Awesome.
Can I say the flip is also true on going back to the voice, is if you do have a very thick accent, if you do have any sort of speech impediment or anything, then there are specific times that you should not read your own book. And there's been a couple of our authors that I encourage them to get voice talent because of accents and difficulty understanding. So in most cases, you should read it, but in certain cases, maybe you shouldn't.
I agree. You know, I mean, and it's unfortunate if you can't, but it's just, you got to know your limitations. And getting a book out there and getting an audiobook out there, no matter what, you're going to be better off than 99.99% of the people. So, Michelle, if someone wants to work with you, where's the best place? If they want to get their audiobook done, where should we send them?
Go to performancepublishinggroup.com, and we do free strategy calls. So if you just want to, see what it's all about, we can send you some information, but performancepublishinggroup.com.
Awesome. We'll send people there, and make sure to follow Michelle on LinkedIn. And Michelle, thank you so much for being on this special edition of the Garlic Marketing Show.
Absolutely, Ian. Thank you for having me.
And thank you all for taking Michelle and I on your journey. This has been Ian Garlic and the Garlic Marketing Show.